Hi friends, it's Binge O'Clock, the podcast where we watch something and then we talk about it. I'm Joy Selden, and I've seen almost everything.
I'm Danielle and I've seen almost nothing.
Which is amazing to me. And I just continuously want to show her things. I am the type of fan of something where I'm like, I don't know how you haven't watched this a million times.
Right. But you're not going to shame me for not having seen it. You're just going to say, listen, here's this whole new world of TV show. Let me share this whole new world with you. And I'm here for the ride.
What if we watch this entire oeuvre of the things Joy likes, which is large.
Many things.
And amorphous. Many things. It is. And I know I'm the type of person to rewatch. I've been rewatching things since before streaming was even possible. I believe the first show that I watched again and again and again was The X-Files. I had to have that on VHS. And I had many of them. I still had many of them long after my VHS tapes were no longer even a thing. Whereas I believe you were just online streaming all the time.
Online streaming all the way. I think the first time I was really able to access things is when they were available online, you know, kind of in the dorm room, in college, huddled around the laptop. And probably the first thing I was able to watch and rewatch was Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yes, which I hope we get to at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
We must. It's a must watch.
Yeah. It even, you know what, the other nice thing about it is there aren't even that many seasons of it.
Oh man, there's so many things that I now stream continuously. And Almost Human is the kind of show where oh boy. So, well, first of all, for this podcast, the idea that Danielle and I collectively sort of came up with, or that I shoved her into, depending on who you want to talk to and ask about it, it's fine. Doesn't matter. We are looking for shows that have run their course and either shows that may have been canceled before their time, like Almost Human, the show we're going to get into, or it could be a show that's between 1 and 5 seasons, something with an end date. So we probably won't be watching anything that is currently on television and or Hulu and or Netflix. But I like the idea of looking at something that has had its run and quote unquote resolution.
Quote unquote.
For the pieces that have been canceled, I would really like to have an extra episode at the end where maybe we have where it could have gone. The where it could have gone corner.
What would season 2 have looked like? What would season 5 have looked like? At what point would this show have had a musical episode, and who would have gotten the ballad?
Oh my goodness. If we could have had Karl Urban singing about his robotic leg.
Right. Maybe the robotic leg sings with him. Is it a duet?
I don't know. Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
How did you hear about this show, Danielle? She said.
From you.
Already knowing the answer? Yes, it was me. It was me.
Yes, because, you know, while Joy has seen and rewatched this show, Joy, how many times is it?
Maybe 100. It might be 120 times. But to be fair, only 120. But to be fair, it is only 13 episodes long. Mm-hmm. And I probably haven't seen it in the last 4 or 5 years. So this rewatch is a little bit of a rewatch for me where I'm like, I kind of forgot some things happened. Okay. Like I remembered main plot points, but I didn't necessarily remember when and where.
That's exciting. Okay, I like that. Well, I'm watching Almost Human for the first time as we're recording this podcast. And so, it's so exciting. I have seen at this point precisely 1 episode of this show.
Yes. And as we'll talk about, I have a lot of shows where it's just 1 more episode. And this is one of those shows. So the fact that I had to stop, I'm doing this for you, dear listener, that I had to stop after watching episode 1 because I was just like, oh no, what's next?
It's funny because I texted you, Joy, directly after I finished the first episode. And I said, I so enjoyed that. And if it were not for the structure of this podcast, I absolutely would have hit play next episode, please. But I didn't.
But you didn't.
I didn't.
And I'm proud of you. And our listeners appreciate you. But yes, I look forward to you witnessing the twists and turns of this lovely show.
Of which there were already plenty in this first episode. Before we do that, shall we discuss what this show is about?
So Almost Human is a 2013 sci-fi cyberpunk cop drama which was canceled by Fox after 13 episodes. And this was during a period of time where Fox decided to dash all of my dreams and cancel every single one of my favorite shows. But that's fine. It's fine. We're past it. I actually watched this. Are we? Probably not. I did watch this while it aired, and I did actually DVR it. There was something about it. Pretty sure his name is Karl Urban that made me keep coming back to it. And anyone who knows Karl Urban knows he's a staple of science fiction and fantasy. He's just a wonder to watch. Bless that man. It stars Karl Urban as John Kennicks and Michael Ealy as his robot partner Dorian. It's created by J.H. Wyman, who is also listed as an executive producer along with Brian Burke and J.J. Abrams. And as a side note, there was actually another creator listed, but when it aired, he actually left the project and took his name with him. Naren Shankar, which if I'm mispronouncing that, excuse me, but who is now show running The Expanse on Prime, which I have heard nothing but great things about.
Oh, great show. I mean, if we ever get to reverse our roles very briefly and I get to show you The Expanse,
yes, please.
I would be an extremely happy human.
I would be so excited. Now, it is not a requirement for our show that neither of us have to, like, never have watched a thing. But it is always more entertaining for me when I'm just like, Danielle, have you seen this? And she's like, no. And I'm like, yes, we're watching.
We're doing it.
I know you had an interesting, like, oh, is that Karl Urban moment?
Yes. When we were trying to get ready for this, Joy told me that she wanted to ask the question, when or who was your first Karl Urban? I thought it was going to be Star Trek. I was wrong. IMDb has told me that my first Karl Urban was, in fact, Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you blink and you miss him in that, though.
I blame the helmet, but there we go.
His metal T-zone?
Yes. 2002 is, in fact, my first Karl Urban.
What? You only missed it by 6 or 7 years? It's fine. It's fine. I'm pretty sure the first time I saw him and was like, oh, that guy, I like that guy, was in Doom.
Oh, yeah.
Which we do have our Tuesday movie nights. And maybe I'll add Doom to our Tuesday movie night.
Add it to the list.
It is a rip-roaring good video game movie. Bless it. It has one of my first, like, actually actionable first-person shooter moments in it, where it's like a whole one-shot first-person shooter type, and I was just very pleased. It also stars The Rock.
I mean,
bless.
How do I say no?
Back when he was The Rock.
Not may I. Can I? Like, am I able to?
So, Karl Urban, you may also know him from the Star Trek reboot movies, from Thor Ragnarok. He's been doing quite well for himself, that beautiful nerd. I do know Michael Ealy from Barbershop, but unfortunately, I'm very happy every time I see him, but I just haven't seen him nearly as much as Karl, which is unfortunate because I do think he's very charismatic and everything he does, he's such an amazing actor and everything he does is just so realistic. And that's usually what I look for in television and movies.
100%. This is in no way particular to Michael Ealy, but it doesn't seem that I've seen any of the TV shows he's in, though as established, I have seen almost nothing. So,
yeah. And we're not going to penalize you for that. That just means more things to watch.
More things to watch. I'm enjoying watching Michael Ealy now.
Michael Ealy does an amazing job as Dorian, and I think we'll get more into that, of why that is. I think Dorian is a very meaty character, and I think he takes advantage of it for everything that it is.
When you first described this show to me, I had seen both movies that you used as the Venn diagram to describe this show, which is part of why I think it was easy for you to sell me on this.
That's true. Those two movies were iRobot and Lethal Weapon, which are not all that dissimilar. If you really think about it, they both have like ornery detectives.
Yep.
But yes, I love the aesthetic of iRobot basically carried over into like a cop drama. Like, I really think that's interesting. I think it comes through as you watch the show. It definitely leans, I'm not going to lie, leans way more in the iRobot category. So if you're looking for sci-fi, that's where it is. It's sitting right there.
That feels good to me. That's what I want. And I think this show set itself up so that is what I am expecting.
Yes. Also doing our research, we figured out that the creator actually intended these episodes to be aired in a completely different order. So as to not mess with your heads, we will be watching them in the order that they aired, and that is currently available on Amazon Prime. But I do think for this particular show, we'll probably do a wrap-up episode where we talk about the other order that it could have been in, which I think would have been very interesting. But we can only talk about that once we've seen the entire thing. So without further ado, let's hop into our little summary of the pilot episode. And I think the pilot episode, as all pilots, suffer from being a pilot.
Sure.
It's got some pilot on it. You know, like it's trying to cram a lot of information in a very short amount of time, and it's trying to get signed on for more episodes. I think the exposition at the beginning was not ideal. Like, I
mean, that's very kind, Joy.
Look,
not ideal is a very kind way of putting the way that we were given information in the 3 seconds of time that we were given it.
Oh, God. It's so much information. And it's so, like, it's not only written, but it's also spoken. And there's a part of me that is like, no, you need to pick one. You cannot have both. You can have one or the other, but not both. Does it. Anyway, so it starts with written and spoken exposition of the year is 2048. And science and technology have basically created this horrible marriage of just the worst in humanity. And like, there's drugs and weapons that run rampant on the streets. And apparently the police force can't keep up with it. And the increase was 400%.
Precisely 400%.
Not 250.
No.
Not 415.
Where that number came from?
It's just so high. It's so high. It's so many percents. It's like the villains were as villainous as villains could possibly be. Like, I'm imagining cartoon villains in my head. Like, you've gone full Looney Tunes.
Right,
There's
100%.
no coming back.
But what that also implies is that all of this science and technology was introduced to this world, made all of the bad things worse, and did not, in fact, make the good things better.
Right. That it is all just a constant trash.
Yes.
I don't know where you go. Where do you go from 400%? But anyway, the show tries to at least take the police force, I would argue, up to, 250, 300% by implying that every police officer needs to have an android partner. Like, cool. All right, fine, whatever.
That's where this society has decided to go. Criminality is 400% worse. Do you know what's going to fix this problem? More of the problem. More of the science and technology. But this time they're good guys. But this time they're cops. You receive it in 3 seconds. And then the opening scene hits, which is the ambush, which we should discuss in a second. But since you get that all in 3 seconds, you don't have time to think about the implications. And you don't have time to think about, well, I wonder, is this a perfect solution to this problem? You just get dumped into. You go. Or thrown into.
Go hard. That ambush scene is so bad. Like, it is a war zone. Like, I believe I wrote down, so then you're thrown into this war zone where there's obviously shooting. Obviously. Yes. There's guns going off everywhere. There's explosions. Flying. There's debris. There's cops on the ground.
Yes.
And we meet John Kennicks, who is, he's doing what he can. He's trying to push through this nonsense, and he's got an android who we learn are MXs near him, and he's trying to be like, well, we need to go in there and we need to, like, save everybody. And the MX is like, are you sure? The probability seems really low. And he's like, no, we're doing this, go.
It's not even that nice. I think his exact words were, shut up, lead me in.
He says a lot of shut up to a lot of different robots in this show.
There's no attempt for him. Well, he's not attempting to justify his actions to this android. He's just saying, nope. Yes. We are doing this.
Which already tells you right off the bat his relationship with androids.
Hates androids. Why does he hate them? We don't know yet, but we will find out.
We will soon, eventually. I don't know. Hard to say. He finds his fallen partner, who is a human, and realizes he's been badly injured. And even the partner is like, go on without me. And he's like, no, we're going to save you. And the android is like, we can't save him. He's
literally impossible.
He's already dead. Like, he just doesn't know it yet. I need to go save other people. And John is like, no, help me save this guy. It's like, are you staying with your partner? Yeah, you bet I am. Mm-hmm. And the android just pieces.
Yep. Which actually, it's so funny because I wrote down the facts that I learned from that scene is androids are not compelled to obey if the commands are illogical.
Yes, this is correct. I do think it's interesting to note the reason he is talking to this android in this particular way is like, I think I would be very terse with a highly logical thing. You know, like how many times have we argued with a toaster oven and been like, what are you doing? Why would you toast like this? You know, when it's just a setting on it's just a knob that you turn.
Right.
So I do think there's a terseness that he has that is very relatable to something that's just going to dismiss you like this. And at the same time, also super mean. Yes. But whatever. It's fine. It's all fine. So he tries to save his partner, and he gets what looks to be an explosive round in his leg.
Yes.
Which, it's so strange because it goes off kind of like a flashbang, and you're not sure if that's like shock.
I think that there's a lot of this that doesn't actually make sense. It doesn't really make sense that just his leg got blown off there. It doesn't even really make sense that he survived, if I'm going to be honest.
Oh, no, it's true. There's a lot that it's just like, so you would have died of blood loss because that definitely would have hit a major artery.
On his belly trying to roll away and the grenade is tossed 3 feet away from him. There was no way he survived.
Only losing a leg.
And, you know, his mental stability, but we can discuss that later.
At the tail end of this, we get a glimpse of a woman.
A mysterious figure. We don't even know that they are a woman.
Well, no, yes, there's a mysterious figure who throws a grenade, but then the whole cinematography changes, and we get these warm colors where we were in a very cold blue-gray setting. We suddenly get a very warm red and yellow, and this beautiful woman, and like curtains.
Just that classic dead wife / girlfriend.
Yes.
Real.
And everyone knows this trope.
Oh, yeah. She's looking at you. She's smiling. You're holding her face.
You may or may not be in bed. It's hard, you know, it's hard to know with all
There's
the
a lot
soft
of white linen.
And then we're sort of jerked almost out of this kind of dreamlike state. And we see Kennex is in how to describe it? It's almost like a medical pod where he's like hooked up to these things. And there's someone who, God, I love to bits. Hiro Kanagawa, who it's just like every time I see him, I'm just like, either I'm going to be very safe or everything's going to go wrong.
Yes.
Because he always plays a doctor, or he always plays like a cop, or he always plays one of those characters.
A police chief of some sort. Yep. And sometimes he's the police chief that turns on you, and sometimes he's the police chief that has your back. And which one will it be this time?
Hard to say. But yeah, so he starts.
I mean, I literally don't know. You know.
It's true. It's true, though. You don't know. You don't know when you see him.
Know.
But yeah, I love this actor. I always feel like warm and fuzzies every time I see him because he always. I want him to get more roles and I want him to get bigger roles, but at the same time, I'm also very happy to see him in all these little piece parts because it's very comforting. But so he like unhooks Kennex from this machine, and it's implied that he's some kind of physician. They say
recollectionist.
Yes, they say recollectionist, which honestly made me go, so it's like a sci-fi therapist.
Well, I don't think he's a physician. You know what? Maybe he is a physician per se, but
he is a black market, like, disgraced physician.
Yes, and he says that most people visit him to, quote, remember good things.
Right.
He's not a physician
per se.
He's not practicing as a physician.
He's definitely not practicing as a physician. This is a fair point. That's a fair point. But he definitely, like, sees in John someone who is struggling, and like I think he still has that like Hippocratic oath where like he has to help, which is why he's sort of doing this, even though John is very surly. basically gets up from the chair and goes, let's do it again. And he's like, we can't do that. You're on medical leave. Please don't.
Well, I also need to call out the show for the second time, just casually, attempting to casually in the course of conversation tell us that John was in a coma for 17 months and that he's been conscious for less than a year. Because this is definitely something that someone says just in regular conversation. Oh, by the way.
That he's been conscious for like a few months.
Well, yeah, because it hasn't even been 2 years since the whole thing happened, and he was conscious for 17 months. So he's been
unconscious
for 17 months. So he's been conscious for maybe 2 to 3.
The timelines here are very strange. I'm like, how fast was your PT? Like, where? Like, did the science, roll you around in bed while you were out for over a year? Like, it's fine. It's fine. This show isn't about scientific fact. Okay?
No.
It's not. We're going to hand wave a lot of nonsense, and that's part of the nonsense.
It's cinematic, and as long as it's a good ride.
Yes. And it always is. Dang it. John can't let this go because people have died. And the doctor acknowledges that, and it's just like, yeah, I get it. You're trying to remember something. And then he sort of goes, by the way, I also, remembered my girlfriend at the end. That was weird. Mm-hmm. Like, my ex showed up.
Yeah.
Huh.
To which
and the doctor's like, all right, we'll take a look at that.
I'll refine the trigger in that cluster next time. And then the show's doing a big wink, wink. Why did he remember his girlfriend here? Guess you'll find out later.
I definitely appreciate that at least. I know. They're setting up things. Look at us setting up things. Like, it's so obvious, show.
Look, foreshadowing.
And big giant neon arrow pointing at a tasty Easter egg right here, which is not even hidden. It's implied that he's kind of like in the seedy, not Chinatown. Like, I think they eventually call it the Culm district.
Yes.
Which
home of black market medical sensors and tasty noodle joints. Which, can I discuss? I am very upset that we do not see said tasty noodles at any point in this episode, even though at one point they are actually sitting at a noodle bar.
But they're not actually eating. They're just kind of there,
upsetting.
Aren't they? Are they drinking tea?
I don't know what they're doing. They're talking.
They're talking.
I don't remember.
But we don't get to see the noodles.
I want the tasty nudes.
PG show, Danielle.
Noodles.
Noodles. Promise. Swear.
I meant noodles.
Oh, yes. And the woman's name is Hannah. Which I always feel bad for. Yeah, I always feel bad for anybody named Hannah in any kind of thing. Because I'm always like, oh, no, that's going to go bad for you. I feel like Hannahs are always... And I'm like, I'm so sorry for anybody named Hannah. It's just like Todd. Like, Todd in media never goes well. Hannah in media is always like a thing. And I feel bad.
Wait, her name is Hannah? I thought her name started with an A.
Pretty sure it's Hannah.
Because there's an A on the back of the little medal. Is it not Anna?
Are we like, it suffers from its pilotness? And was her name supposed to be Anna?
IMDb says Anna, A-N-N-A.
Oh, I wonder if they changed it.
Do they call her Hannah in the episode?
I believe he said Hannah in that very first scene. I also could be wrong.
There is also literally an A carved onto the back of the medal, though.
There is. Well, from now on, her name is Anna. Maybe they were like, we don't want the implication of Hannah. That's going to be too much foreshadowing. We can't. But at the same time, and if anybody watches this on Prime with the subtitles on, you may also notice that this was definitely, like, somebody was given the shooting script for this, because there are definitely some different subtitles that they say that they do not say in the episode. So I
wrote down one of my favorite differences at the end of the episode, and we have to discuss it when we get to that point.
We will.
Yeah.
We will.
Before that, though, we jump to him in the car. He takes a red pill. What is this red pill? We don't know.
I mean, one hopes it's the recovery drug from someone who has just been in a coma for 17 months.
I don't know.
But no, they don't actually address what it is. He tends to he does tend later he takes it again, and he tends to like take it without anyone else.
Yeah, the implication is that this is a black market medicine?
Yeah.
Question mark. And
something to deal with the quote unquote black market treatment he's getting.
Right. It's unclear. But this is also when the MX sees him in the car. The MX uses facial recognition to put two and two together. He's a police officer. Oh, he's off duty. This is why he doesn't have an android next to him.
Yeah, and automatically does the, like, scan of his breath to see if he's been drinking.
Oh, that's what was happening there?
That's what was happening. Right. No traces of alcohol on his breath, which, in my opinion, is just like, oh, dear God. Like, if a cop could just look at you, oh, boy. Oh, boy. Like, but again, these are implications that the show will never address, so it's fine.
No? Okay, see, I don't know that. Can I also, this is where they drop a piece of information that I just noted because I have not seen this show. Individuals came over the wall an hour ago. What is this wall? I don't know. Will we find out? I hope so.
Right? I know. I love the tidbits that they drop, like breadcrumbs, like Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah, it is kind of fun. I like that about this pilot. I like it. There is a lot of information. There is a lot of exposition.
Yes.
But there are also little bits that are kind of sprinkled through.
We're just gonna
made me want to hit that next episode button.
This is where it does a good job. It's the upfront exposition that, like, oh man, I don't know if you needed it or if you didn't need it. I don't know what happened, but you got that pilot shine on you, and you really need to get that pilot off you. We get, like, I guess the next day where, like, he gets a call from Captain Sandra Maldonado, who's played by Lily Taylor, who I also love. She's amazing. And she's playing a police chief, which we'll see later that it's like, how many women do you just know offhand playing police chiefs? Playing police captains, sorry. Or someone in a law enforcement authority. Mm-hmm. You don't. You don't see them. And it's like, she's not angry. She's not, you know, that typical police captain where it's just like slams down on the desk of like, leave your badge and gun, you know, like she's not that way at all. Like, I just really enjoyed watching her in the pilot because she's just kind of like stealthily knows everything that her officers could possibly ever need, and it's fine. And she just provides it. Yeah.
I don't know. How do you feel about their relationship?
I have questions. I have
Speaking of her being, you know, she does treat him in this very caring way.
Yes.
You know, the way that she eases him in, but at the same time weirdly knows exactly how to push his buttons to get him to say yes.
Yes.
To the things she would like him to say yes to.
Yes. I do find it... I have thoughts about like this might be inappropriate, but I can't fully say yes or no.
We also have to think about her position in this whole scenario because I mean, she literally says to him that he is the only police officer in her precinct that she trusts. And I'm thinking, what does it feel like to be that person?
That's true. That is a very specific place and time. Oh, yes, which brings us to in Syndicate, which is the sort of overarching kind of bad guy, which we got in the ambush. It's sort of said with this like hush toned, like, are they mafia? Are they, you know, they're obviously in control of a lot of stuff. It's the implication is that they have far reaching influence.
They are the seedy underbelly that was empowered by the science and technology and thus made everything 400% worse.
Yes. Essentially. I will never get over the 400%. Hey, dear listener, would you like to comment with what 400% worse looks like? Because what even is, like, do people just walk around carrying bazookas? Like, is that a thing? Like, I don't know. Do you just get your own personal tank? Like, where is the line? What does that look like? 400% is just such a whack number. I can't even...
I want the writer's room to be like, you know, they're sitting around trying to come up with this info dump and they're thinking, okay, so everything is significantly worse. How much worse should we say it is? And someone else goes like, I don't know, 400%. They're like, yeah, sure, 400%.
Yeah, done. And like it was a placeholder, which like they just left in there. Like, I don't know. 400%. It's fine. Whatever. But so we see him at home, and we also get this, like, so he's fine, by the way. Like, he seems to be upright, perky, and everything's cool. He has a prosthetic, like
Is
a robotic...
your definition for fine that he can sit upright?
Look, the man survived an ambush, like... This ambush in an alleyway, I imagine the cops talking about this like they are talking about, like, surviving World War II. Like, it was crazy. And it must have been, like, 10 minutes? You know? Like, it was absolutely insane, this war zone that he survived. And the only problem is, like, his prosthetic doesn't quite fit his leg. Like...
Yes. Well, you know, and the laundry list of items that make him unfit for duty.
Yes.
But...
Right. Well, the things we can't see.
Yes.
The things going inside that perfect little brain of his, which are utterly imperfect. Basically, it's just like his prosthetic is just like, what was it?
Synthetic calibration incomplete.
Yes. Synthetic calibration incomplete. And, like, whenever it's unhappy... it'll just go off and be like, I don't know, I'm upset. Why don't I fit right? And I'm like, does the leg have feelings and opinions? I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to know, really. But it never goes off at an inopportune moment. It's not when he's walking around. It's when he's, like, interrogating someone or, like, standing still at a noodle shop.
It's his right leg?
His right.
His right.
His right.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely his right leg. The leg may or may not have feelings. It's fine.
We'll find out in the musical episode.
We'll find out in the musical episode. Definitely. In the musical episode, 100%. There'll be a song to his leg, and it'll be glorious, and it'll be the thing that I want to sing at karaoke, but no one will ever have the track for it. Is this song about his prosthetic leg. He goes into work. And the first thing that happens, the first thing that happens is some of the cops are not happy to see him.
If the ambush clearly had inside information and one person survived, like, maybe that one person should have been tried or investigated.
Right. No.
Question mark.
Yeah. I mean, the unfortunate thing is he was in a coma for 17 months, so that couldn't happen.
Yes.
I think it's sort of hand-waved that, like, he was quote-unquote cleared for duty, even though his laundry list of psychoses would not have cleared him for duty. But Sandra was like, that's fine. Like, Lily Taylor was like, I need you. You're the only one I trust.
The only one she trusts in this entire establishment. Can I also tell you, I noted that the main detective who is so upset about him being there is named Richard. And they also, in the same moment, call him the prick.
Yes. Is it my favorite joke? Is it one of my favorite jokes in the entire pilot? Yes. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. There's something about... Look, there aren't a lot of jokes. This is definitely meant to be a cop drama. There isn't a lot of levity. But every now and then when that happens, I'm just like, well, yes. Good job.
Good job. Pat on the back. His name is Richard.
His name is Richard. And then there's also Stahl... Which, why am I forgetting her first name? Veronica Stahl?
Valerie.
Valerie. Something with a V. Yeah. I swear. I read up on this. I swear. I did.
And then, of course, spoilers, R.I.P., Detective Vogel is also introduced in this
Poor
scene.
Detective Vogel. He's our red shirt.
He is our red shirt.
He's our red shirt.
Martinez is messing with you again. Like, oh.
I know. He's just like, guy. I'm having a lot of trouble logging into the system. And it's like, well, you dunce. Like, just like, no, sometimes you just have trouble. He's only, I got bad news for you guys. Don't get too attached to Vogel. He's only there to get exploded. I'm sorry. I know he doesn't even get exploded, but we'll get to that. It's fine.
Yeah.
So the second thing that happens is he's immediately... introduced, quote unquote, to his new partner, which is one of the MX series androids, which he instantly ignores and just goes straight to the captain's office.
Yep.
And is like, well, a human partner was good enough for my dad and it's good enough for me. And it's at this point where I was like, we love daddy issues. We love them to bits. And then also like, oh, of course your father was a cop.
Right.
Of course
Were you
he
looking
was.
for the issues? Because here they are.
Here they are. I found them. You're welcome. They're here. They're all right here. And I'm just like, I also love the like the daddy issues mixed in with like, this is the employment I have. And who knows if like daddy made me a cop or if I just wanted to be a cop because dad was a cop.
Right.
Like, it's so layered with a throwaway line of like, it's good enough for my dad. It's good enough for me.
Yep.
And bless him. But again, that's like, those nuggets are what I really enjoyed about the show, where like you could say something like that and it could mean a million different things. Mm-hmm. And Sandra, I shouldn't call her Sandra. P.S. Kenix eventually calls her Sandra, and that's where I'm like, you guys are very personal with each other. What happened?
Very.
Where are you like? And again, because I haven't seen it in so long, I don't even remember if we learned about it. But I'm just like,
True.
Were you a mentor? Were you guys together?
Maybe could they have been in the same class? He's been in a coma for 17 years.
That's
she
true.
could have been she could have been
17
promoted.
months. 17 months.
Yes, years would be extensive.
Years would be extensive.
She could have been promoted while he was in his coma. So
Also
maybe
true.
once upon a time they were both detectives.
Also
so
true.
I don't know.
I mean,
very
like,
unclear.
it's sort of, we don't know right away, but we definitely know that like Maldonado, Captain Maldonado is like caring for him with kid gloves in a way. And I'm just
Yes.
like, I don't know that do you do this with everybody? It's fine. It doesn't matter.
I don't think so because she doesn't trust everybody.
She doesn't trust everybody. Yes, this
Doesn't
is where the
trust everybody.
conversation happens where it's like, you're the only one I trust. So they go out. I think they get a call.
Yeah, I think that.
Oh no, Maldonado gives it to him. That's what it is. Maldonado is like, I've got a call for you to take, and we think it's in Syndicate, which is of course, as you said, just the thing to make him go.
Just the thing he needed.
I'll go check this out. And it's a armored car robbery. Like they steal some biotech from a van.
Yes, a single-strand synthetic of which is basically programmable DNA.
Programmable
Again,
DNA, which 400% is fine.
400%.
400%, whatever. It's fine. I feel like this is the hand wavy. Like whenever crime is like insane and it's just like, here's a technical jargon thing, which we've obviously invented and has obviously been on the street for who knows how many months or years. 400%, whatever. It's fine. But they also stole some canisters of Myclon Red.
Yes.
Which is a thing that triggers Kenix to have what I think is eventually called a seizure of some kind, which I did not write down.
He says, well, the android says it looks like a petite mal seizure, but basically it triggered his PTSD.
But Myclon Red is something very, very specific. And also, I really kind of enjoy that, like, this is where Stahl gets to shine a little bit and is just like,
yes,
you know, she comes up and she's just like, so we're interviewing the gang that this is their territory. And, you know, Kenix has enough wherewithal to, like, recognize the human response of, like, I think that's kind of BS. And she's like, yeah, it is BS because this gang, and I believe he's Cambodian. Mm-hmm. Cambodian leader, definitely not have killed anybody on this holiday. And I just love that, like, she just gets it. Like, she makes these connections, which is, she is one of the characters that we'll sort of see again and again that reinforces the human connection that you need to have on the police force, of like, and why humans are important to still be there when you can't just have robots. But yes.
Myclon Red.
Hashtag Myclon Red. When I first heard Myclon Red, I was like, so this is a spray paint of some kind. It's got to be. Like, this is a color, and some producer went, you know what sounds funny? Myclon Red.
Right. I don't even think they establish for us specifically what it is. Is it a chemical? Is it a gas? Is it literally spray paint?
But we've got Myclon Red, everybody. Sound the alarm. Whatever it is it definitely has to do with biotechnology.
Yes.
That's what we're sort of getting. And like the combination of that with the reprogrammable DNA. Mm-hmm. Sure. But what brings us, and Kenix getting back in his car to like try to figure something out, to pops another one of those tiny red pills.
Yep, yum.
Not in the vicinity of anybody seeing this, but what happens is the MX notices something is wrong and is like, I'm going to have to report that you had a moment back there. And Kennex, while they're on the highway, shoves him out of the car.
Yep. No warning, just does it.
Just does it. And I instantly was like, so that's a suspension, like right there, right? Like this is, who knows how much those cost, right?
Did he have to face any kind of, I don't think he faced any kind of consequence for that. I don't predict that he
does not.
I also like that the show was just a little bit taking its foot off the pedal and then it slammed its foot all the way back down again.
Yeah, it has two modes. It has noir detective drama and high octane action. And it does not, there is no smooth transition anywhere to be seen. It goes hard or it goes home, and that's it.
Yep. Okay, so he shoves his android partner out of the car, and since that happens, I guess needs a new android partner, which then takes him into scene, I don't know what number, but I have titled it A Rudy Introduction.
Yes, a Rudy introduction. Like, I don't know where, I don't know when, I don't know why. Like, I don't know if he called Captain Maldonado and was like, something happened in my MX. I need another one. Can I go see Rudy, please and thank you? Like, it's fine. We're going to hand wave it.
My first time through the episode, I thought that Rudy was a black market kind of android producer because I was thinking, okay, well, he's going to replace this android secretly with another android.
Right.
And then, of course, the androids look totally different, are totally different, so that isn't even a good plan in the first place. But then it's revealed that Rudy is in fact employed by the police force. And so
Rudy is basically Kennex's man in the chair who just he works for the police force, but like he's in like a closet in a basement in a warehouse somewhere. He's just there doing tech, just being happy to do his tech things. He reminds me of Rat from The Matrix.
I
get so many Rat, fair. Like I get so many Rat vibes.
A very similar energy.
Very similar energy. And he's also played by Mackenzie Crook, who is, those of you playing the home game probably recognize him from Pirates of the Caribbean. And who I love watching him. He's one of my favorite. You'll see this a lot, dear listener, where there's like a nerd who just wants to be left alone to do nerd nonsense. And that is usually my favorite character. I'm just like, oh no, it's Rudy. Oh no, he's just going to be a nerd about it. He's going to be a nerd. He's going to go so hard into nerd that we will never see him again. But it's fine. We love him anyway. Rudy's great.
I love him the minute he shows up.
Like, Rudy knows just enough about social interaction of, like, when to press the issue and when to just be like, oh, you're just here on business. Cool.
Yeah.
And so Rudy goes into a back cold storage something, I don't know, hand wavy nonsense, and pulls out, like, a zipped up popsicle of a android and basically hands him, I don't know that there's actually.
Oh, no, I don't know.
It's fine.
It just says DRN series.
DRN series. Fine. Commonly known as a Dorian class, programmed a little differently than the robots we've seen already. The reason for that is he was programmed with something called a synthetic soul, which, like, I love the concept of, like,
yes,
I love the first initial response of having something like a police force being like, we can't just have robots. We can't just logic the problem, because that is a problem. Like, you cannot do that. Logic isn't always applicable in every single circumstance. And then somebody else who's making these robots going, you know what? You're right. Why don't we give them emotions and thoughts and patterns and, like, colloquialisms and personality?
Oh, that colloquialism routine.
The colloquialism routine is one of my favorite pieces of nonsense. I love it so much.
Yes, it's so great. But this was one of my favorite scenes, I think, in the entire pilot.
Was it waking him up or just before waking him up?
Just before waking him up.
I mean, I will say Kennex's first reaction, which tells you everything you need to know about the series, is one of the crazy ones.
Rudy immediately replies by saying, "That's rude."
That's rude. So rude.
Rudy, one of the good ones.
Rudy. Oh my God.
And see, this is why I love this. Oh, I know. If anything ever happens to him, and I don't know whether something happens to him because I haven't finished watching the series, if anything happens to him, I will riot. Because when he...
I've known you for 10 seconds, and I will kill all of you and then myself.
Yes, exactly. It's that Rosa with the puppy moment. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, for anyone who hasn't seen it.
Yes. We should watch that at some point.
But the way that he describes the, quote, bugs of this model.
Yes.
As, you know, they are programmed to be as human as possible. And the truth is, it's human to have unexpected emotional responses was just chef's kiss.
Yeah.
Perfect.
You have a breaking point as a human being. They have a breaking point as someone who is meant to react as if they are human.
Yes.
It's such a succinct piece of information that, like, tells you instantly what you can expect from this robot as soon as you wake him up.
Mm-hmm.
And I will never forget that his first line is like, "How long was I out?" Like, it's so heartbreaking, right? Like, you feel that so deeply.
Yes.
Of like, you acknowledge that you were deactivated.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if your toaster was like, "How dare you?"
Right.
You haven't had toast in 3 days. What's wrong? Yeah. And I just love Michael Ealy in this scene. Him waking up, needing to understand how long he's been asleep. And you know, Rudy is kind enough to tell him exactly how long he's been out. And just this whole idea of now you have a person. And Kennex doesn't understand that. Because Kennex is familiar with these robots who run on logic, and he is not prepared to deal with someone who, like, has a personality and has opinions and has emotions.
Yeah. And I think Michael Ealy does such a good job here because he shows up and he is just this immediately warm presence. And it's funny to watch because we're walking in and we're seeing someone who is very obviously, for lack of a better term, human.
Yeah.
And John is just
arguably
sitting there.
The most human character we've met thus far.
Yes. So far, even more than John. He outshines John as a human immediately.
And look, the character is built to be this way. Like, I'm not going to be mad about it. That is definitely, that is where this show is going.
And then, of course, I don't know whether the show is going to take the time to discuss this, but we should probably think about how John has immediately written off this DRN because it has emotional issues. Whereas, hello, Mr. Unfit for Duty with my laundry list of emotional issues.
I know. He basically is just like, great, come on. Let's go. You know, and like, meanwhile, Dorian is like sort of trying to get his sea legs, and he has to update his
records.
Yes, he has to update his records.
That was a fun moment too.
Yeah. I'm just like, wow, you're really decorated. So nice to meet you. You know, and it's just like, you should update your stuff. Poor Kennex is just like, I'm not decorated anymore. Come on, let's go. And, you know, Dorian is jazzed to be here. Man, he was supposed to be in the NASA program. He's just like, he's so happy to be a cop.
Yeah.
Like, and, you know, you kind of get, not that he's a rookie, but you kind of get a little bit of a rookie vibe off of him of just like really jazzed to be like doing good.
100%. I actually don't even think he was supposed to be in the NASA program. I think they were going to break him down for his parts.
I think they were going to break him down for his parts.
Yeah, Rudy dropped that little line about his spinal cord being worth more than his entire being. So he wasn't even going to get to go to, you know, be a space android.
I know.
He was going to die.
I actually wonder if the implications were like they told him he was going to be a space android just to like not shock him into going crazy.
Ooh. Oh, I don't know.
The implications! 400%! It's fine. The implications don't... It's a made-up show where the implications don't matter. But so
the implications are the things you sit with at night.
Exactly.
About the show.
You're a fan of this and maybe you work it out in the fic. It's fine. It's fine. This is fine. So they're driving along in the car, and Kennex is just not able to human with him at all. And I think he even says something that's so rude of just like, hey, synthetic off.
Yes.
And the first reaction was Dorian was like, I really don't like that term.
Yes.
I do not. And this is where, and I talked to you about this very briefly because I wanted you to sort of experience this organically. But a lot of times with science fiction, we will have two white people in two different scenarios. One of these white people is like disenfranchised in some way. You know, they are a lower class. They are, you know, maybe they are an android. Maybe they are like a fairy. That they are a of lower birth, so to speak, than a quote unquote normal white human being trying to address quote unquote racial issues.
Yes.
Now, the fact that Michael Ealy, a black person, is playing an android in, you know, what can also be considered opposite a prejudiced person against robots is definitely hits a certain point for me as a science fiction fan that I was just so glad we finally got here. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because of all of the racism issues in our country. I don't know if it's because of the way Black people are treated. But the fact that the show addresses this in a very direct way and doesn't shy away from it was something that I thought was worlds better than all other science fiction attempts that came before it.
Right. No, I agree. I think it adds this weight to the moments where Michael Ealy has to, because this is his partner and because he cannot be a police officer without being partnered with this person, has to swallow those moments. And all he can say is, I'm not a huge fan of that term. There's that term again. But you see it in his face that he has to swallow that.
There's so much left unsaid because you cannot say it. And if you draw attention to it, then you become that guy. You know, the racial interaction is there in live Technicolor. And there's something about watching that, which also, as a white person myself, makes me a little uneasy because Lord knows I've witnessed these conversations before. But also, I'm just so proud of the show in a way of like not shying away from it. You could have cast anybody else. The MX series has, I believe, in the pilot alone, has a white person, someone of Eurasian descent, and a black person. Like the MX series in general has sort of this rainbow of race. But because they are so logical and they don't have this emotional connection, you definitely don't get hit with it as much as you do with Dorian. And I just think it's really important that they didn't shy away from it.
1,000%.
Yeah. But you will see this again and again.
Oh,
this is not the
I'm
first
sure.
time.
I mean, we see it again in this episode.
We definitely see this again.
Just at the tail end of that scene, you definitely get that moment where Dorian gets to say, you could just ask.
You could just ask.
And then, of course, the leg pipes up and goes, synthetic calibration incomplete. I see what you did there, writers. Here we go to the next scene.
My other favorite moment for that in particular, like it happens and because he is not a logic machine, because he is emotionally driven and he has a personality, he has this moment of like, I could say something, but you don't want me to talk. I'm not going to talk. It's fine. Like, you definitely get the distance. And Kenix does too. Like, Kenix picks up on that immediately also, where it's just like, I have something to say, but you don't want me to talk. It's all right.
All right.
So I believe they are on their way to Poor Dear Vogel, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. We
so
are.
we're gonna kind of gloss over this and just so the listeners know at home, it's a little bit gruesome. If we ever get to Fringe, there's more gruesome to come. Don't worry.
Oh, sure.
But basically we get to a building where the MXs are like, don't go any further. There's a tripwire. Yep. Something could happen. And Dorian just continues forward. And the MXs are like, DRN, please cease and desist. But like Dorian has in him, the character has stakes. And the reason I love that he just barrels on forward is because he needs to prove himself to Kenix that he is not just following the rules. Like, he can just do this. Like, he can react just like any other human partner would. Yeah. And he does. He just barrels on through, and he's just like, okay, so we've got, all right, there's a tripwire there and then a box there. And okay, so we could just go if you want, because there doesn't seem to be any bomb.
Right. No, he can think for himself.
I think
this is actually maybe, I'm not counting, but the second major moment in the episode where he gets to do that. Because we had to hand gloss over the interrogation room.
Yeah, the interrogation room, we're
gonna hand gloss over the interrogation room, but right after the interrogation room, Dorian calls out John for A, quote, violating the crap out of that guy's civil rights.
Yep.
And B, for implying that Dorian has to report things rather than deciding to report things.
Exactly. Which an MX in that scenario would have had to report something. Which is also why there's a part of me that's just like, if you've only experienced the MX series,
yep,
I can't fault you precisely.
For looking at them for treating them like a toaster.
Exactly. I can't exactly be like, how dare you? Because what other frame of reference do you have? I fault you for calling him crazy. Or for calling him
a basket case at one point.
A basket case, one of the crazy ones. That I can kind of fault you for, because it's like, look, if you had done your research, you would have known why. The interrogation scene is important because Dorian picks up something that Kennex misses by looking at the medical report and seeing that he shot himself so that he could be taken into police custody. This is one of the syndicate grunts. He apparently shot himself so that the police would take him in, and here he is getting beaten up by Kennex. And finally, Dorian's like, hey, hold on a second. Wait. You shot yourself. Why?
Right.
And the guy's like, I can't tell you, man. They're insane. They're gonna get me. And Kennex is like, we can protect you. After he just was kicking the crap out of this dude. Whatever. Hand wave. But the fact is that Dorian is not the type of officer to just be like, I have to report that. It's like, no, you thought you were going to get information. You didn't. And you switched tactics as soon as I said something.
Right.
And that, I think, is also important because Kennex can be taught. But boy, is it going to take some.
This is a character who can learn.
I mean, it's going to take some time. We're going to spend some energy on it. It's going to be a while.
He comes around a bit even by the end of episode 1, which...
Yes.
Or the pilot, which I'm happy about. We can talk about it more later, but I am glad it didn't take him 3 episodes to get to that point. I'm glad that he got it all out of the way in 1.
Yes.
Because I didn't really want to watch this happen for 3 episodes.
If we ever get around to watching Alien Nation, which is my favorite in terms of how it can be done well when you try to deal with quote unquote race relations in a law enforcement setting, where there's this alien race that you treat like a lower class of citizen, or white people in makeup with the white people who are not in makeup. And that's unfortunate. But look, it's the 90s. The 90s were doing what they could. There comes a moment where, you do have this constant sort of well, this is how we've always done it. I'm kind of set in my ways a little bit. And that happens far too much.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fish out of water moments, and it's just oh, but you could have did what this show did. You could just accept that in episode 1.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe it's only John who has accepted it at this point. Probably Dorian is going to run across this kind of interaction just throughout the series. Yeah. Probably.
I mean, look, does John have more to go? Probably.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, definitely.
But at least you establish that he can be taught in episode 1 to be hey, don't be a jerk. What if you weren't a jerk? Right. You could choose.
What if you weren't a jerk?
You could choose not to be a jerk. So yes, the interrogation scene happens. They have a bit of an argument in the middle of the police precinct, which I also thought was funny. They go to Vogel. The thing is it's a setup. And what happens is the guy they were interrogating actually planted something in the police station while he was being shipped to another police station. And they ambush the police car he's in. And at the same time, this... it's so awful. This bio weapon is released into this cage where Vogel is. And like Dorian is like, I can't do anything. I can't get him out of there. I don't have the time. I don't have the tools.
Yep.
And the weapon goes off and Vogel is dead in like seconds. It is fast and it is brutal. And I would argue probably horrifying. Like his skin gets mauled.
Pretty horrifying.
Yeah. His skin just goes totally. It's unfortunate. Yeah. We won't dwell on it. I know we've already dwelled on it. It's fine. We're moving on now. Promise. You can start listening again. But as they're carting him away, there is a moment where I do think Kennex has these moments where he sometimes forgets that he's talking to a robot, even though he's talking to a robot, right? Because like Dorian is so good at his job that it's not always your first reaction. So one of the things is like, go get a med kit and get a sample and we'll like ship it off to Rudy and figure out what happened. And Dorian, in what could almost be described as an FU moment.
Yes.
Takes a syringe, extracts the blood, and it's like, not necessary. Hang on a second. Extracts the blood.
Right. Does literally the most hardcore thing possible.
Yes. While keeping eye contact with Kennex, jabs it into the side of his neck and like squeezes. And it's just like, I just sent the labs over to Rudy. It'll probably take a second. Like, so Kennex obviously had that second where it was like, I'm going to treat you like a person. Oh, wait, you're actually not a person, though.
Oh, I forgot.
I forgot for just a second because Dorian is that good.
So good.
So yes, we find out that the reason Vogel is dead is because there's a series of vaccinations that all law enforcement goes through. And this was a bioweapon specifically targeted at those vaccinations. This will only target cops, which if we ever get to that episode in Fringe, there's an episode like this in Fringe, which I actually thought of as we were watching this.
Ooh, okay.
If it ever happens, it's fine. It'll happen.
Well, they're back at the office, right? Dorian speed reads. They find a case file.
Right.
They hit pause on the investigation and we get some character moments.
We do.
Because first we get 3 big character moments. So one, they're at the office and they have that giant in-office argument. Then they're at the Recollectionist, at which point Dorian saves John. And then they're at the noodle bar, the disappointing scene where we do not see noodles.
Yes.
And at the end of the noodle bar scene is where John finally says, oh, right, back to the investigation. Here's the thing you can do.
Yes. So there's also the MX file witnessing Vogel being taken. No other MX can figure out what this says. It's bad data. I think Kennex gets the idea.
Yeah.
Well, you make connections. Like, that's how your positronic brain works.
There are these 3 big character moments.
Yeah. Please excuse us, dear listener, because this pilot is jam-packed. With like 2-minute scenes. And if they're 2 minutes, I'm being like, some of these are like 30 seconds and then a thing happens. So episode 1 is a little rough for plot development. I promise it gets easier. A little, kind of.
It flows in the moment, though.
It does flow in the moment. If you are watching along with us, one hopes you've gotten more plot from that show than hearing us talk about it. But it is definitely a very fast. Kennex essentially leaves Dorian somewhere and decides to go to the Recollectionist to like pieces out.
Yes.
And is just like, I need to figure out more stuff because this Myclon Red is messing with me and I've remembered something else and I need him to show me more. What he finds out, and correct me if I'm wrong, is like that's where we find out that his ex is actually the person who throws the bomb.
You're right. Mm-hmm.
So that amorphous figure where all we basically see are their ankles. Like we see their legs. And we're like, okay, combat boots. Go cool, right?
Yeah.
We suddenly get a face to match with it. Oh, this is why he thought of his ex at the end of the first session that we get to see.
Yep. This is likely how she found out about this, or how in Syndicate found out about this in the first place.
Right. He had information about the police force and she fed it to in Syndicate. Whether she's fully behind that attack is sort of up in the air.
Did she even see him through all of the smoke? I don't even know. I don't know whether she saw him or knew that he was there.
I like to think the implication is like the reason he survived is because she threw the flash bomb just far enough away from him that he didn't die.
Oh, maybe.
I don't actually remember, so I could be talking out of my own butt. I like my fanfic brain is like...
It's certainly a possibility. John relives the memory until he sees her. Did she see him? We don't know.
Wait,
Q also... This is my favorite. This scene right there where Dorian jumps in and saves his life by finding his locator chip is also my favorite difference between the spoken words and the subs. Because the spoken words say, you're lucky you get the partner with the bleeding heart, which is great because it's a callback to earlier.
Yeah.
But then the subs say, get your purse, cowboy, we're leaving.
This was obviously like a first draft of the script where Dorian was meant to be this like surlier, like maybe matching Kennex, you know, like maybe he was meant to like match the energy. I don't fully understand, but boy, howdy, am I glad they changed that line. 'Cause
me too.
Wow. That would have been entirely out of character for everything you've set up thus far.
Everything. And, you know, Dorian is the kind of character who can call out Kennex. I love how in the argument he literally tells Kennex, no, it's you that's malfunctioning.
Yes.
But we also don't need get your purse, cowboy, we're leaving.
Oh, God, no, we don't. I'm so glad they changed that. And I also don't know if they changed it on the spot because you don't actually see him say his line. So,
oh, interesting.
Yeah, like you don't see Dorian for that line. So I actually kind of wonder if it was like a voiceover later or if they just changed it on the spot and like we just didn't get a shot of it. We just had John's reaction. I don't actually know, but boy, howdy, am I glad that line is not in there because it would have been really tonally different from literally everything else you've shown us so far. And so, yes, now is the noodle shop where there are no noodles.
Yes.
Which is upsetting.
No noodles. Very
I'm so
upsetting.
sad. I didn't even notice that there were no noodles. I just thought they were like, I thought Kennex was sitting there eating some noodles, but you're right. I don't think I actually saw that.
I only noticed because I was waiting. I was looking for them because they mentioned tasty noodle bars 7 minutes into the show.
They definitely did. So unfortunate. But yeah, they're having this heart to heart because, you know, Dorian is also not gonna like take Kennex in.
Right.
Dorian's not the type. The idea that like you need me and I need you, and this one is said with a little bit more heart. You know, you take me to good restaurants. You know, like in a little tongue in cheek sort of like. I mean, we're only together because I don't want to be in NASA. So
I don't want to literally be turned to scrap metal.
I don't want to literally be turned to scrap metal.
Yeah. And no, I hear you. He says it with a lot of heart. Yeah. But I think that it also helps us understand why Dorian is okay. Not is okay with what's happening, but has to be okay with a lot of what is happening and a lot of how how John treats him.
Yeah. I do think Michael Ealy plays it in the space of sometimes you need the meal ticket and you need to accept a certain level of not great behavior.
Yep.
In order to accept that meal ticket, which again,
to put it as lightly as possible.
Yeah. we could be using very many other adjectives, but I think
PG-13 show.
I think that gets the point across. It again, you know, has that level of like discomfort because you understand he's being made uncomfortable because he is a person.
Yeah. For all intents and purposes.
And I do think, again, the show does not shy away from like, we're going to make you uncomfortable in this moment. Like this is a thing we need to address.
Yep.
But so, yes, they have their heart to heart, and it's very sweet.
We have our heart to heart.
And he says something along the lines of, well, you know, MXs are just here for a logic puzzle, and that's not how I work. I am built to make connections, just like a regular police officer would. And that's where Kennex gets his idea of like, you know what? We're going to use that to our advantage. Check, please.
Yes, we are.
All of a sudden, which is to me kind of hilarious because I'm like, well, if the MX recorded this, couldn't a person have seen this?
Right. Well, no, I think maybe the MX recorded it and there was raw data that needed to be processed.
And they couldn't compile it?
Through an Android brain?
I mean, maybe.
Question mark? I mean, again, with a hand wave.
And 400%, it's fine. It doesn't matter.
400%.
400%.
Okay, so then cut to the villains are getting set up and we finally get to see more of the conversation that happens before Vogel was kidnapped.
Yeah. And it's like, you caught me monologuing. It's definitely the, like, you were there 2 years ago when I was, it's just very obviously like, I'm going to broadcast my plan to you because you're obviously going to be dead before any other cop sees you in the next scene. Which right. I'm also just sitting here going, Vogel could have used his last moments to be like, it's trap. But that's fine. Neither here nor there.
Oh, he wasn't in it. He wasn't in a good place. He was trapped in a glass box.
Yeah, I mean, Lord only knows how long he was in that glass box. I think that's also a hand wavy thing. It's hard to know. But the gist of it, the unfortunate punchline is, oh no, they're gonna hit the precinct.
Yes.
And all hell breaks loose pretty fast. I think Kennex gets like one call into Captain Maldonado to be like, it's a trap, get everybody out, kind of thing.
Right.
And first, so it's like, I believe it's a helicopter that lands on the roof?
Yeah. So the helicopter lands.
We have all this technology, but we obviously can't keep an eye on the roof of our own building.
Okay, well, speaking of, we have to also mention that in a few scenes later when they literally have to go through evidence piece by hand.
But he said the number. He said the thing.
They literally have to go through evidence piece by hand. But also technology, future tech.
But also future tech. 400%. Like even in the footage they see, it's like, it's the piece of evidence 6948 or whatever it is. I wrote it down.
6663.
Yeah, like. It's this piece of evidence.
Case number 6663. Yep, that's the case. But no, doesn't matter. They drop the thing on the roof. It sends out a pulse, which, by the way, huge Death Star problem here.
I know.
Because they've put all the MXs in this place to protect the police officers, and all it takes is a pulse to knock them all out. Instantly, defenses are down.
You just EMP a robot and...
What if you just EMP'd the place?
What if you just EMP'd a robot? Like,
except it's not an EMP because it doesn't affect Dorian. It's something.
It's true. It's a very specific frequency that is meant to take out the MXs. And the reason it doesn't affect Dorian, which they kind of hand wave, is like, oh, I'm on a different frequency. Well, fine, whatever. Right. It's fine.
You think that maybe they would just diversify the number of frequencies that they had their MXs
or have it on like
so
a constant. Like a constant scramble, something.
Yeah, like a password that gets changed every week. Because what if it took more than one pulse to knock out every single defensive mechanism you had at the police precinct?
Again,
Death Star problem.
400%. It's fine. It's fine. One way or another, Dorian gets his like really awesome moment of like being able to come out of the fog of like, I'm perfectly fine. And then he gets like shot at and he's like, I'm still fine. I'm going to take you out.
I like the moment where the mini boss villain literally sprays him in the face with this mix. Because he has no way of knowing that Dorian is an android, because if Dorian were an android, of course Dorian wouldn't be walking around. So he sprays him in the face with this stuff. Doesn't work.
Yeah. I am a little like, again, hand wavy. Like, this mist is a very nice mist, which only works if you're in the mist. Like,
literally specifically in the mist.
Kennex, like, should have been dead 10 minutes ago. But no, he's walking around just avoiding clouds. And he's fine. And the mist only affects, like, a certain quadrant of the... Like, for some reason, you didn't put it in the ventilation system, which would have been my go-to.
No, I think they were going to, because at one point, one of the villains shouts to the other villain, like, open the valves or something.
Oh, and that's true,
That's what, there's a roof shootout.
Yes.
So the police officers kind of mess up the plan a little bit And then the mini boss kind of runs into...
The call to Maldonado helps, damn it.
The call helped.
It did something.
And the
Such
something it did
plan.
was
what was
the
your plan?
entire precinct was... I don't know what the plan was. Well, the plan was to knock out / kill every cop in the precinct, then go into the evidence room. But then by the time Michael Ealy and, John head into whatever part of the precinct the final showdown happens in, it's also completely empty.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what happened.
It's so weird. Like, we see all the MXs go down, but, like, I think there's one
Where'd all the police
floor.
officers go?
And where'd all the police officers go? Like,
they didn't all run up to the roof.
No.
I don't think. It didn't look like there was space for all of them up there.
It's not.
Maybe they evacuated the building. Who knows? Regardless. Shooty. Valerie almost gets knocked out with the gas. John gets to save her. He gets his cool scene.
Yeah, they're definitely setting up Valerie and John.
They are hardcore.
Oh,
I mean, from the first moment that the both of them were together on screen, I thought to myself, are they going to become an item? Probably.
They're looking for it. Memory doesn't exactly serve me well here because I don't actually remember if it happens or not. In my brain, I'm going, it doesn't make a good show if that happens in the first season, right? Like, you got to have a lot of will they, won't they before anything actually happens. So my brain is kind of like, I think they try to set it up and I don't think they actually do anything about it. But, but we'll see. We'll have to see that together because I don't remember. But yeah, so
excellent.
The short version is they win. Kennex and Dorian win. And Kennex, I think, finally deletes that video of his ex on his phone.
Yep.
Which we kind of sort of half mentioned, but like he has like the last, one of those like, this is the last phone call my ex sent me and I don't want to delete it because I may or may not still be in love with this person. And there's that whole moment of like, just delete it. Don't torture yourself. Just delete it.
Right. I do like that he gets to decide to delete it. No one tells him to delete it. That's kind of nice.
Yeah. And meanwhile, Captain Maldonado is like, yeah, we've totally put out an ABB for her. We'll let you know. Like while he's watching it one last time.
We also discover, just going back to the conversation about their possibly inappropriate relationship, that she's been messing with him behind the scenes this entire time and is the reason Dorian was assigned to him.
I know.
So
she's pulling so many strings.
Pulling a million strings. But this is the part that this is one of the nuggets that made me want to keep watching, because this is where they tell us that Dorian's record is mostly redacted.
Right.
And then Maldonado says that Dorian was assigned to John because he's special, which I took as not just special because he's a DRN, but special because I don't know. Because I don't know why so much of his record. He's special for some reason. His record is redacted, and I kind of can't wait to see what. I hope they reveal some of that. I want to know a little Dorian backstory, and I'm hopeful that I get it.
I can't wait for us to just invent some kind of weird nonsense backstory for him in the last episode, where we're just like,
yeah.
But no, we need to watch all of it for that to happen. Oh yes, and then they go through all the evidence by hand, even though you had an evidence number. It's fine.
Yeah. They're going through it by hand. We get that cool little shot, I guess, of the female presenting android in the evidence locker. Her cheeks lighten up with the red, so she's powering on.
Which
cool.
As you pointed out in the off recording is like, it's good that we have that, because that's how we know the woman in the box at the end is an android.
Is an android.
Which, yes, I think we were a little bit remiss in mentioning that. The androids definitely have a little light up face dealy when their processor is doing something. It's kind of how you know they're androids. And it's, it's sort of a different color depending on which version you're looking at. I think Dorian's is red, if I'm not mistaken. I think some of the other ones...
No, I think Dorian's is blue.
Oh, is it blue?
Hers is red.
Hers is red.
His is blue.
A couple of the other MXs are also red.
The only reason I remember that his is blue and hers was red is because my I'm still thinking, is this a coded kind of lightsaber moment where it's like the blue and the green are the good red lightsabers and the red are the bad lightsabers,
I know.
So do we know specifically that this is bad android? I'm not really sure.
I thought they were doing that also just because the MXs, which were kind of trained through Kennix's eyes not to like, are also red. So I do wonder if it's like red means bad, blue means good. It's hard to know.
We'll find out.
We'll find out in the next episode. But yes, it ends on this beautiful little cliffhanger, which, there's a part of me that like will always love that. Well,
and a nice little character moment for Karl Urban, right?
Yes.
Where they end up having a little small talk instead of going into quiet mode. And then off we go into the sunset, as it were.
Yes.
End of pilot 1.
End of episode 1. Oh boy. It's how are you liking it so far?
I know it's a lot. There were a lot. They had to throw a lot at us to set up the entire show. But I think that they did it pretty effectively. They kept me engaged, right? Whenever their foot comes off the pedal and you're starting to lose interest, all of a sudden they slam that foot down again. And I think they do that well.
It's true.
And then, of course, they sprinkle in the little nuggets that make you ask questions,
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you can kind of see it, like where some of the failings are of like where maybe it didn't grab its audience as well as you wanted it to. But I do think in streaming, where you have this, like, I can watch the next episode right now. Like, I do think it does have that, like, bingeable quality where you're like, okay, next one, like, the next potato chip.
Next one, here we go. Yeah.
And the next one we're going to be looking at is called Skin.
Ooh. Which, did I see correctly, was originally intended to be the second to last episode in this entire
something like that.
series?
Like, it was meant to be something like number 8, which... And my brain is like, wow, that's different.
Whoa.
In a 13-episode season, that is a very different number from what I expected.
Significant.
And I would like at our episode 14 for Almost Human to definitely like address this is where those dominoes would have fallen. And maybe see if we can maybe see the through line. But I do also wonder if they just like sometimes the network just changes the order because they're like, we need people to watch this right now. And this is what we're going to do.
If we want people to come back weekly versus just hitting next on whatever device you're watching, which is what we're doing, it needs to be structured a little differently.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm going to be honest here. The second episode also deals with sex robots. We are in the United States. I do think the instant second thought when it's like, androids is like, what happens to the sex industry? Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, that's not a thing that we like. Look, everyone's going to think that.
Yes.
It's not a large leap. And that's not even trying to like figure out the mechanics of it. It's like, no, it's like, well, so the sex industry is now entirely different. There's so many implications.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to experience this together.
It's going to happen. It's going to be amazing.
I can't wait. I think that's the end. Is that the end of episode 1? Did we do it?
I think we did it.
Did we do the thing?
I think we tried.
We
tried for sure. By the way, dear listener, please be sure to actually watch the pilot.
Oh, yeah.
It's very good. I highly recommend it. It is currently on Amazon Prime.
We would recommend that you watch this episode and maybe not just listen to us talking about it.
Yeah, I second that.
But between now and then, we would love to hear from you. Please check us out. We are at Binge O'Clock Pod on Twitter and Facebook, where you can answer the question, who was your first Karl Urban?
Yes.
When did you come across him?
Which film?
Is this?
Or TV show.
Film or TV show, I suppose. Is this your first Karl Urban? Or you can always email us at bingeoclockpod@gmail.com.
Yes, and do tell your friends, your family, tell your loved ones, tell the cyborgs in your life about Binge O'Clock, and we will see you next time.